So Martin, I have two questions for you. One, both are because our customers they cancel their participation in our seminars. Second, some of them, like small size companies, they don't have a digital platform to collaborate. So I wanted to share with you thoughts on these two use cases. One, first, what can we do as GmbH Germany, where we don't have the Simply Learn online yet, as a quick and dirty possibility to switch at least part of our seminars to digital. So what's your thought about that?
Well, you can say that there's political difference between what I would call a webinar and then an online learning. And a lot of the seminars you do could probably be transferred to just, and when I say just, I don't mean it's just online learning, meaning that it's something you enter, you see some videos, and when I see some videos, it doesn't need to be fancy, it doesn't need to be full of effects. A lot of the online learning people are doing is just like recording from a laptop like we're doing now. So the benefit of that in the corona time is that people are like me, they're working at home with kids and cannot maybe attend a specific hour on a specific time. So do then the online learning where people join an online course with the same content that they are going to receive on the seminar and do assignments, stuff like that, will be smart in these corona times. But then there is also the other side, that will be a webinar, and webinar is live streaming of a conversation, and that can be done in many different ways, but you need to have some kind of engine to run the live streaming from, and the easiest thing to do is to use YouTube, because YouTube is free and it's live, so you don't need to hide the link yet. Of course, if this is an internal thing, you can maybe say, well, then we can go for a premium solution with Vimeo and use Vimeo to do it. That's the other way to do it. But anyway, if you have a Simply Learn platform, you can have subscriptions to that webinar no matter what, you can say, video engine you use for conversations. Meaning that if you're using YouTube, well, did anyone see that? It just came coffee and cake through the window. That's 10 kisses to my wife.
Great service.
Whoa.
You should introduce her to us soon.
Yeah. Wow. I'm so in love now. Wow. I'm blushing now. Okay. Okay. Thank you. So, okay, where were I? Okay, so no matter if you use one of these twos, I will recommend Vimeo in the matter of, do you want to have the video and video closed? Because in Vimeo you can close the video link in the future. In YouTube you can't do that. You can only say if the video needs to be private, or you need to have a link, or it needs to be public. So but Vimeo costs money, and you need to have some kind of a drive behind. But I will say choose between YouTube and Vimeo. Of course, you can use Facebook also for live streaming. The problem with using Facebook is that then you're locked to that environment. You need to stay on Facebook, but you can do a lot of online learning and training on Facebook. But then you're kind of a good friend with Mark Zuckerberg, and you need to stay there. So I will say in most cases it's YouTube or Vimeo you will go to, if you want to do a Simply learning platform, to set up a platform can be done in some hours actually, because it's basically just say to the application, please make a new site. The only thing we need to know is what domain it needs to live on, and then If you are in a country with a big language like Germany or France or Italy or all these big European languages, because it's WordPress based, a lot of the translations will already be done. It's worse if you are in Sweden or Czech Republic or Latvia or smaller countries in Europe. Basically, you will have a lot of things already done there.
Question.
Mm.
Question.
Yes.
As far as I know, YouTube, I have my private channel, use it for small things. It's a one-way thing. It's a live stream, just one way.
Yes.
We are looking for or thinking about a solution which allows the participants of our seminars also to interact, like having a chat or having even switching the microphone, seeing each other.
Yeah. Well, that's something else. A webinar, the definition of a webinar is actually a one-way. It's just a conference where people are sitting there listening. If you want to do a conference call, actually in xpand we already have Google Meet. So the service Ricardo and I are using right now is the Google Meet. Google Meet is made by Google, who is the biggest online IT company in the world, and their video engine is actually used of other companies. So Google Meet is a good solution, and you can actually use that for free, pretty high up. There's also Zoom that you can use, and many like Zoom calls. It's a bit more complicated, but I think that no matter what you do, if you do what I would call video conference with more than 4 people, you actually need to set up some communication rules. And I have three rules I always run when I run because I do this a lot with Google Meet. One is you need to actually have a facilitator. Like when we do xpand stuff, we always have a facilitator, and that facilitator needs to facilitate the conversation. And he needs to be the moderator also for who needs to speak when and what. And this is actually maybe more important than it is physically. Why? Because people has a tendency to not listen when it's online. They maybe do other stuff. Especially if their boss, they ask them to go into something and they maybe get distracted on the computer to do something else. So there needs to be a moderator, and then we go into point 2, who actually address every question to the people who are in. And that could be, of course, if you're like say 30 people, it could be like, okay, I have a question now in a scale from 1 to 10. What do you think of? And then in the chat, you then post the number or something like that. That's one way to do it. But you need to ask the second important thing. You need to ask for a response. The next thing is that you need to have some kind of, hey, I want to say something, right? So normally when I'm in a physical meeting, I will raise my hand and say, and wave it, and then the moderator or the facilitator, he will say, well, yes, Martin, what do you need to say? In the matter of online meeting, you need to do that in the chat. Meaning that you need to, when I want to say something, I will put my name in the chat. And why do I put my name in the chat? Because depending on what system you use, it can be totally crowded with a lot of users. That's why, so the moderator, he needs to just look at that chat, and then he say, well, oh, I see Martin have a question. Martin, can you speak up? And then I will unmute my microphone, which will probably be a problem if people don't have their microphone muted, because maybe their laptop is having echoes and all that, all these of trouble. So start the whole conversation with introducing as a facilitator how we do this and what's the communication rules. So these trees that you need to have a facilitator. Everyone needs to participate on some level, depending on how you do it. and you need to always, people need to raise their hand by putting their name in the chat. Those 3 rules are, I will say, the main rules you need to have to run a live conference meeting with over 5 people.
So I would like to wrap up. Thanks for that. Just to make sure that I got these 3, let's call them use cases.
Yeah.
I started with the question on how to post, in brackets, some training content in an asynchronous manner out there as teachers, so participants may look at it whenever they have the time. And for that, you said, well, Vimeo would be a bit more complicated, but a bit more fancy, but YouTube could do a good job for that. It's preparing something, sending. Second, there is a live stream that would be, for example, as non-public or with just people with the link. So we're not hooked to Facebook. We can have a one-way conversation with many people live. And then we have the third case, which you just were describing, where we can have a digital meeting with a facilitator, which may be the same as the trainer, but perhaps there are 2 xpand people. One is doing more the training thing, and the other one is looking at the chat and having these playing rules. That's 3 cases, if I got you right, which as a package may help us as a country to jump into this corona gap, both for our own seminars, but also to help our customers as, in brackets, train the trainer or consult them on how to do that. For example, we could, in brackets, sell our moderation role if we take that role for the customers.
Yeah.
So the other solution, which originally was the reason why we are speaking right now, was EasyLearn. If I got you right, EasyLearn can do the broadcasting function.
Yeah,
and also can close the video, right?
Yeah, just it's Simplylearn, but yes, it can do it. It can you can say you when you do stuff like this, you use different technologies and put them together because different technologies serve you on different levels. And in this case, Simplylearn will be that, you can say, hub where you gather everything and make the money value. Because to just go on YouTube and do stuff there will not make a money value. You need to get a big audience to do that if you want to, and you cannot get that overnight in these corona times. So this Simplylearn hub will be that money value, and also there you can charge people for going in to re-see the seminar or re-see the webcast or re-see the meeting and all that. Yeah. And this will for let's say for a company, let's say you host a live conference in Google Meet, and you record it. The value for the leadership of that company would be to go into the Simplylearn setup and re-see that conversation and do some reflections. So you as a moderator, you will then, after the conversation, ask them specific things they need to reflect on of that meeting. This is also for the CEO or the leader of that company will be a quality that they actually were there, they were present, they did understand, which is always the biggest problem with remote work, that people are maybe in the meeting online, but they are not really there, right? Because they pay attention to something else. So,
Great. Yeah. So thanks. I take this also to apply it to our cases in Germany. We have one situation where we have public seminars, and typically when they are live, I'm not speaking about virtual, but live, people pay beforehand and then they come to the seminar.
Yeah.
So in this case, if I got you right, this could work still without Simplylearn, they don't get the link to this Google Meet if they don't pay the seminar.
Yeah.
But the difference is, which I like your comment, if in more like in-house company, if that is multiplied in the company, we don't have a chance to make sure that when they pass on the link, that this generates a revenue. So there, yes, we have a fourth use case which we can take into account. If we have this in-house multiplying situation, we need make sure how to get that money. Yes.
Yeah. And of course, then there is the value of reproducing content, like we do with the scans. That we use the same resilient scan for other customers in the same way. If you do a radio recording where you, let's say you do in your office, you take like a flip over or something, and you do your seminar there in front of your computer, just recording yourself. That recording can be reused many times for different customers. You just need to be aware of what you're saying, and you don't address to a specific company. So this is also the value of having things in a learning environment like that, definitely. And then, like you said, the biggest bad thing about just using YouTube is that when you send the link, then they can forward that link to other employees. When you use Simplylearn as a setup, you can track per user. And on top of that, you can actually report to the CEO of the company who actually watched the video after and not. So because you have a tracking of who did what when. And that's a proper value for the leader of the company when he, everyone is at home and he does not have control of anything of who's doing what. Oh, he has, but it's added value as xpand can give their customers.
Okay, I have one perhaps last question, so we close the recording part of our chat. I think if we keep it short, it's easier for xpand colleagues if we hear it. Let's assume that as Germany or other countries, we jump on the Simplylearn solution because of this very special Corona situation with all the opportunities, but also the challenges arising. And you mentioned before we started this recording that this needs some setup from you, and that this may take some hours. Is it realistic that, example, if 4 xpand countries, after listening to us, they make the decision and say, well, I go to Simplylearn, is it realistic to get a setup for, let's say, 3 countries within the next 2 weeks, or is that not realistic?
Well, that's totally realistic. The main question will be, do we want this in many languages? You say right now, France has their own Simplylearn platform, and it's in France. Well, they talked a little about in Canada to start to use it, but they haven't decided yet. Then you have of course the Norwegian Simplylearn platform. And then we have the xpand.courses, who is actually an English platform that is kind of sponsored by us in Norway, or sponsored by me in reality, in the work of time we put in there. And we are charging people some money per video, what they're seeing. Well, we could take that platform and convert it to many languages, but there is we need to, it's probably faster to just do it per country. Say that this one is German, this one is France, this one, is Italic, etc. Because in the moment you start to do it multi-language, then you need to have some running of plugins, of translations and all that. And depending on the situation with the end customer, we need to think about this scenario. So I will say that, okay, if it's a lot of different countries, let's look at a kind of a discount on how we do this, or something like that.
Okay. Okay. Great. So Martin, I say thanks a lot for these very helpful answers. I will share them with my colleagues in Germany, and I also will forward the link once you send it to me of this record for other countries. So thanks for that.